One of the most popular questions Darren and I have had over the last year is, do we think crop protection prices are coming down? And already last fall, I took a look back, because if you go back to just 10 years ago, you look at the fall of 2005, we had really low commodity prices. And when you compare herbicide and insecticide prices to back then, you know what? We're actually less expensive on most herbicides and most insecticides today than we were 10 years ago, when crop prices were less than half of where they are now. So are crop protection products really coming down more in price? No way, except for one category. Fungicides. Fungicides have gone up in price over the last 10 years. Now granted, we've had many advancements, many new products coming out, many different ways to use them. We're understanding them better. We're getting a lot more yield gain. So I get it that the companies went up in price, but here's the good news for 2015. Most of the fungicides have come down in price. There are more rebate programs. Some of the products just flat out came down. There are generic options. There are more premix options. Just a lot of choices now for fungicide. So before you cut the fungicide, I'd go back and refigure your return on investment numbers, because with a lower cost, now maybe your return on investment will be just as good, if not even better, than last year.
One of the other topics with fungicides has been half rates. Well, when can I use half rates? We hear a lot of results published in farm papers and just from dealers across the country that, wow, half rate in certain situations may work as well as a full rate. When you think about crop that's really small, like let's take wheat right now. When we've got wheat in the northern part of the United States that's just a few inches tall, it's not a big plant at all. It's not going to take much product to cover that plant.
So yes, if you want to have more residual, then I get it that you want to use a higher rate, okay? But if all we're trying to do is real early in wheat, or real early in soybeans, or real early in corn, all we're trying to do is control some diseases right then, you don't need a full rate. We would just encourage you, you need to follow the label, okay? But I will tell you that a lot of farmers around the country are using half rates with great success, and you know what? Now, instead of spending $12 or $14 or even $10, you can spend $5 or $6 or $7. Well, boy, if I can get the same yield gain for half the money, then all of a sudden I say, wow, hey, that's a pretty decent return on investment, especially if I can combine it with my herbicide. That's what we're doing on our farm for wheat. We're doing that in corn. We're trying some work in soybeans sprayed real early, but even when we spray just a little bit later at say R1 or R2, you know what, that plant isn't near full size, but we're out there spraying insecticide, we're spraying foliar fertilizer, pretty easy to throw in a fungicide.
Just have to keep in mind with any fungicide application that fungicides don't move around in the plant very well, so getting good coverage is absolutely critical, whether you're using a full rate or even more so when you're using a half rate. So when should you consider using a fungicide? Let's look at corn and soybeans and wheat and exactly when we expect to get the best gains. Wheat, for example, is generally the first crop that we're spraying in the spring. We like to spray that right at that herbicide timing where we've got 4 or 5 leaves out. So for guys that say, I'm going to scout and then if I start to see something, I'll get after it. Boy, it's really hard to time that, because when we think about fungicides, they're really preventative products. They're not very good at curative activities.
Let's talk product real quick. A lot of people have said, well, boy, generic tilt is $2 an acre. Should I go that way? Okay, well, you can, and that's a lot better than nothing. But what we would suggest is maybe try some other products too. There is generic Quadris out there, half rate, $3 or $4, something like that. You could certainly run a low rate of Preaxor for maybe $5 or $6. Try some of these things yourself and just see, hey, am I gaining enough yield to pay for the difference? If it costs me $4 extra and I'm gaining 2 bushels, well, then that's a no-brainer. If it's costing $4 extra and I'm not gaining any yield, then hey, I got to go with the cheap option.
All right, in corn, we look at that V4 to V7 timing as where we're going to start spraying fungicides in crop. For me, though, I really prefer V6 to V7. If you could time that out on your farm, that's where we'll normally see the best gains.
Okay, and in terms of products there, really kind of the same thing. Most people are looking at Equation or Headline, or what we would again suggest is take a look at some of these combination products like Preaxor or Quilt. There are a number of different combinations out there. Stratego Yield's really good as well, and so is Fortix.
Well, it's just a big deal to prevent resistance. That's why we're going to these multiple mode of action type products. You know, when we look at soybeans, there isn't a lot of fungicide use early in the season in most cases. Many farmers are going to wait until at least R1 when they start treating for white mold, otherwise R2 or R3 when we're at full bloom to first pod before we're putting a majority of the fungicides going on soybeans.
There have been some studies now showing Fortix at R1 is going to reduce the incidence of sudden death syndrome, or at least delay the onset of sudden death syndrome. So that might be something that you hadn't heard before, might be worth trying in an SDS area.
I was just going to say as well, if you've got heavy insect pressure out there, especially like soybean aphids,
good point.
we can see diseases getting in there as well. So if you have to spray bug spray, chances are putting a fungicide with it may help protect that plant too, so you can cover up those open wounds, so to speak, and prevent disease from getting in through those spots.
Well, again, the good news we have for you today is fungicide prices have come down from last year, so take a look at those real hard and take a look at reduced rates early. Try some things out on your farm and just look hard at return on investment.
And speaking about a good return, you should get one by controlling our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop it coming up next.